Good evening and welcome to this October 10th event of Zena Soul Connect. It is my immense pleasure to MC this event where we will be discussing and conversing with two artists, one visual artist and one musical artist. The larger context of this conversation or these two conversations is to ask how can we make art relevant in our present context, musically, visually, and combinations of all of these. The larger mission of Zena, as we all know, is to bring joy to a world which is at the moment going through a severe crisis. I am going to focus my questions and direct the conversation in a way that we get both the specifics of the two speakers and how they contribute to their world and our world, as well as to take the conversation forward. How can we expand on this within the Zena context? And with this, I declare the event open. My first responsibility is to acknowledge the immense contribution of Mr. V.K. Pandey. He's retired from the Indian Air Force from 2000 and graduated from the ETI Electronics Training Institute, Bangalore. By virtue of being an ex-air warrior in electronics stream, he has had major segments of his career dedicated to exploring and teaching radar engineering. Having had a distinguished and commended term of 20 years with the Indian Air Force, an equally vibrant civil career, he commands a colossal practical experience of the 3 decades, ranging from engineering academics and industry to communications research and management. He has proven his mettle in high-level maintenance procedures, production engineering service, quality control, teaching, and office management. We could not have had a more qualified person to facilitate our technical aspect of the evening today. Welcome, Mr. V.K. Pandey. I'll hand over the mic now so that we can play the vision video. Handing over.
Vinay bhai, you have to unmute.
Zena World Vision Document. We are a family, bringing joy, happiness, prosperity in our lives and around by nurturing, encouraging, catalyzing, enabling 360-degree well-being in physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and economic dimensions. Our vision: abundance of joy, happiness, care, and prosperity for all. Our mission: we strive for alleviating pain, suffering, and poverty, encouraging unshackled free thoughts, enabling dignified jobs and livelihood, nurturing close family bonding, seeking joy and happiness in the impact caused. Our values: passion, work with passion and from heart. Our values: humility, learning attitude, mutual respect, and open to listening to others. Our values: integrity, sincere, honest, and ethical principles. Our values: empathy, understand and feel others as your own. values humanity, have compassion, brotherhood, fellow feeling, and kindness. Our values joy, work that brings joy and value, diversity and inclusion. Our character trust, belief, faith, and confidence in self and in others, from where love and compassion emanate. Our character, virtue, high moral values, patience, consideration, trustworthiness, and forgiveness. Our character, transparency, honesty, openness, and not guarded. Thank you.
Resuming now, I want to take a minute or two to explain the larger purpose of this conversation, how it ties to some of the recent events we've had and the range that we bring to these events. Just a few weeks ago, we were talking about the miracle, the fascination, the artistry of patola weaving in India and how it has been transported to different parts of the world. We talked about cybersecurity not too long ago. And today we're going to talk about music and visual art. How do these things connect? Perhaps at the surface level, they don't. But this is the purpose that we set ourselves to. Collectively, Zena World, this family, is committed, as we've seen, to some very high ideals. We are going through very troubled times, both in our personal lives, our civic lives, our political life, our national life, and globally. We are surrounded by poverty, war, exploitation, and yet we have very little to turn to. So, from my point of view, I think that the purpose of art is to enrich our lives. Some people acquire art and place it on their walls. Some people engage in art, but most importantly, we need people who generate art, who bring an artistic temperament to the rest of us. I may not be able to play an instrument or sing a song to save my life, as you all know. And yet, I am committed, we are all committed to foregrounding the role of art in our lives. There was a time when art was patronized by kings, by museums, by the state, by rich people. All of that has receded. Art is on the brink of just disappearing into the private world of museums and collectors and those who can host um, baithaks in their home. How do we bring this art to the street, to our living rooms, to our interaction with each other? This is what we are going to explore today. Thank you. Uh, so, as the program illustrates, we have two very distinguished speakers. I will engage in a conversation with each of them individually, time permitting, and if there are organic connections between the two, hopefully the visual artist and the musician, and I know that Jay is also a painter, these will be able to find organic connections. Hopefully, our participants will also contribute and try to form the connections that so far do not exist. Let's go forward. I'll introduce Shivani Singh. Shivani is a very devoted member of our family. She attends these events regularly, passionately, with her entire family involved. Um, in her other life, she's a kindergarten teacher, but don't mistake, she's not limited to only dealing with children. She brings a holistic approach to educating the young and the not so young. Apart from teaching kids, she's also a choreographer and a hobby singer. With her natural oratory and didactic skills and rich experience, she's often invited to various institutions to speak on early childhood care and education. In 2014, she received the Best Teacher Award in her school. She's presently teaching at the Shaurya Army Pre-Primary School, Ambala Camp. Hello, Shivan.
Thank you so much, Dr. Poonam. Thank you so very much. सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। आज के इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित समस्त प्रबुद्ध जनों का हम हार्दिक अभिनंदन करते हैं। यह हमारे लिए बड़े ही सौभाग्य की बात है कि जीना वर्ल्ड के साथ लंबे अरसे से जुड़े वरिष्ठ सदस्यों के अलावा आज हमें उनका भी स्वागत करने का अवसर प्राप्त है जो इस परिवार से नए जुड़े हैं। मैं स्वयं को गौरवान्वित महसूस करती हूँ कि आज मुझे इस अवसर पर स्वागत भाषण करने के उत्तरदायित्व को निभाने के लिए मनोनीत किया गया है। जैसे कि आप सब जानते हैं, यह पहल अपनी संस्था के उद्देश्यों को उजागर करती है, जिसके अंतर्गत प्रत्येक सदस्य को समान अवसर दिया जाता है। यह इस सच्चाई से भी जाहिर है कि संस्था को हम पर संपूर्ण विश्वास है और इसीलिए आज मैं आपके समक्ष हूँ। मैं इस सुयोग के लिए आयोजक मंडल का सहृदय आभार प्रकट करती हूँ। I am here because I choose. I live by choice, not by chance. To make changes, not excuses. To be motivated, not manipulated. To be useful, not used. To excel, not compete. To choose self-esteem, not self-pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice instead of random opinion of others. Zina Soul Connect Foundation, and the objective to create values related to hobbies, passion, and entertainment for the society. The type of organization, public trust. Activities, sustainable program design and execution to promote art, theatre, culinary delicacies, drama, music, dance, culture, and other passions and hobbies. Supported by Zina World OBC Private Limited. I now request Mr. Vinay Pandey, our technical facilitator for this event, to play 3 videos, namely, playing of great memories and milestones. Thereafter, voiceover by Colonel V.D. Singh, explaining about the memories and milestones videos. And lastly, introduction of video of Dr. Poonam Arora, who's the MC of today's event. So, over to Mr. Vinay Pandey for the videos.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is there a technical problem we're facing? Vinay, are we facing a technical issue?
विनय भाई कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है?
Is the video not going, sir?
No.
Not.
You have to share the video.
I did say.
We are still in the meeting mode.
We were towards the end of the vision, memories and milestones video.
Yeah, the voice of control video has to go.
You have just watched a montage of some people getting together at important venues like boardrooms in beautiful locales such as well-manicured gardens
Is it now going?
and exchanging pleasantries.
Yeah.
What does all this have to do with the activities of Zina and its vision for a better future? Actually, these are the people who work behind the scenes. They have taken time out of their work and family schedules to gather at centrally located places to discuss important issues. They did not necessarily know each other before these meetings, but they met nevertheless to present and listen to others' deeply held beliefs on how to achieve social well-being through Zina's mission and vision. These meetings typically went on for several hours. Some had a firm agenda, others were more unstructured brainstorming. In all instances, the members arrived at a consensus without any coercion or manipulation. All processes were democratic. Nobody was superior or inferior. Nobody's personal values carried the day in the end. We show these pictures of people arriving at decisions on how to move forward, what to prioritize given the urgency of certain themes and contexts, and what to avoid so that the group unity doesn't suffer. These snapshots of people exchanging flowers, posing for group shots, and exchanging information about each other are indicators of cooperative working, respectful disagreement, and newly forged alliances based on mutual respect. These memories and milestones are a commitment to our larger mission and a promise that if you decide to join one of our many working groups, you too will have a sense of meaningful participation and collaborative learning.
Could we move to the next video?
Dr. Poonam
Yeah,
Arora retired in 2017 as the Associate Dean of the College and Rosenfield Chair for Diversity and the Liberal Arts at Grinnell. Dr. Poonam Arora retired in 2017 as the Associate Dean of the College and Rosenfield Chair for Diversity and the Liberal Arts at Grinnell College in the United States.
So, okay.
She did her PhD in English and Film Studies from SUNY Binghamton. Her career began with teaching film and literature at the University of Michigan Dearborn in 1989. She then expanded her teaching, research and administrative service as the chair of the Humanities Department from 2002 to 2007 to all the humanities disciplines. From 2007 to 09, she was the Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Zayed University in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Here, she facilitated the development of a liberal arts curriculum for a young and affluent nation by its women students. Dr. Arora has turned her experience in teaching the humanities into policies and practices for strengthening the liberal arts through social justice, equity, and diversity in higher education in the United States, the Middle East, and now India. She received her school and college education at Delhi Public School, Mathura Road, and St. Stephen's College, Delhi. As Senior Vice President at Zina Global Family Foundation and Zina World, she is currently working on a book tentatively titled The Indic Liberal Arts for the 21st Century: Policy, Prospects and Problematics.
Thank you, Mr. Vinay Pandey, for all these lovely videos.
Most
And
welcome.
now I hand over the stage back to Dr. Poonam Arora to take it further. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to me. And here I am. We get to the crux of the event, an introduction of Jay Thakkar, who I now have the pleasure of calling a friend, but who until recently was just an anonymous bansuri player that I discovered online. Jay Thakkar is a Mumbai-based Indian classical flautist, composer, teacher, abstract painter, and an architect. He graduated as a Bachelor of Architecture from the J.J. College of Architecture, Mumbai, in the year 2000. Apart from his training in Indian classical music, on the voice and on the bansuri, the bamboo flute, under several eminent teachers, he finally trained in the nuances of the Hindustani raga system with the renowned flautist Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia for 7 years, from 1999 to 2006. Presently, Jay divides his time between teaching and performing Indian classical music on the bansuri and live in concerts. He has a long list of performances at civic organizations and in private baithaks of patrons of contemporary classical music all over India. It is our immense pleasure to have him on this forum. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
So I'll say a word about how I discovered Jay. I was, as many of you know, I'm a stranger to India. I've returned here. I'm almost like a foreigner, sort of innocently lost in India, looking to find my footing. And so I was surfing the net. I came upon a performance of Jay's at somebody's home, a friend of mine who happens to live in my neighborhood. And I heard this flute playing, the kind that I had never heard before. And I thought to myself, really, is this the flute? What have I been listening to before this? So I sent Jay a few typical flute recordings that I had heard before. And I said, excuse me, I'm so-and-so, and I like your playing. Could you tell me what's the difference between your playing and this thing that I've heard? And I've heard Hariprasad Chaurasia many times. And what is different? And so he sort of informally and very gently tried to educate me in the nuances of what he's doing with the flute, what he's doing with Indian classical music, and really how he's breaking new ground. Uh, I am what they call a Tansen rather than a Tansen. I like to listen, and I really have no training in music, but I know when I like music and when it touches my soul. And I'm so delighted to say that Jay's music has touched my soul. Most evenings, I go to sleep listening to his music. Actually, I can't sleep because I'm so enthralled by what I'm listening to. In fact, last night I was listening to his rendition of what he calls, what is called the Shuddh Shuddh Kalyan,
Shuddha Kalyan.
Shuddh Kalyan Rag. And uh, I want to have this conversation both for my own personal education as well as to enlighten all of you. Let's begin. Jay, tell us about your musical journey. How have you reached where you've reached?
I honestly I don't know where I've reached, but I'll just try and describe it as impartially as I possibly can. so at the age of around 7 or 8, I
Jai
I
bhai,
was
can you speak louder slightly?
want me to increase the mic level. Is this louder? Is this
Yeah,
better? Is this better?
yeah, you can increase the mic level.
Is this better?
Perfectly fine. We all can hear you.
Okay, great. So at the age of 7 or 8, I was made to learn vocal music. In the beginning, I just didn't like it. I just wanted to escape from the vocal classes. But yet, I went through it for a couple of years, and surprisingly, I topped the class despite not liking it. And then there was a bit of a gap because of academics. Then somehow the music stayed with me, it germinated. Then out of my own volition, I went back to learning music. That's when I really started going deep into it. And academics went along on a parallel track. I did my 10th, I did my 12th in science, and then architecture. In the meanwhile, I was studying music. First, I learned vocal music from Pandit Dhamapurkar in Mumbai. Then I somehow at the age of 17, I just felt like playing the flute. Out of the blue, I just felt like playing the flute. So I got myself a flute, and I tried for a few days. I could not play a single note for 3 days, and I was about to smash the flute against the wall out of sheer frustration. But I stopped myself and put it again to my lips. That's when the first note came, and I slowly learned the basics of Saregama Padanisa on my own. Then went to Pandit Anant Patwardhan, late Pandit Anant Patwardhan. He just passed away a couple of months ago, sadly. So he was a very kind and affectionate teacher, taught me very patiently and lovingly, and I learned from him for a few years. Then very soon after that, I had the great fortune of learning from Pandit Hari Prasad Chaurasia. He too accepted me with great love and taught me for about 7 years. And after that, I realized that now is the time to actually collate all the impressions of learning of all these years and work on it myself. There comes a time when you have to get out of the university and put all your learning in practical usage. So that was the time for me to actually digest and work on the music myself. So that's how it began. And in fact, while I was learning from Pandit Chaurasia, I had already begun teaching some basic students on the bansuri and some vocal students as well. So I've been teaching for about more than 20, about 22 years now. I've been teaching for 22 years now. So roughly this has been my journey in music. One special aspect of it was my grandfather. I used to go to Indian classical music concerts with my grandfather. He never had any formal training in music, but he always used to listen to the transistor near his ear, morning, afternoon, and night. He used to catch all the local radio and national radio programs on the transistor. Never missed a concert in Bombay. So I used to go to several concerts with him. That's when I came to know about different artists, and those trips to the concerts with my grandfather and discussions about music with him have enriched my musical understanding greatly. So there was music at home, not formal teaching and learning, but just the sheer love for music that was there at home. And on the other hand, there was also training from several gurus. So in that sense, I have been very fortunate in receiving very rich musical impressions. So this has been my musical journey in short. And after that, I've been just teaching, performing, and just making music. That's about it, yeah.
Will you play some for us so that people get a taste of what
Definitely,
your
definitely.
playing sounds
Right
like?
away? Right away?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
that would
so,
be lovely.
yeah. So now I'll be switching the original sound on, because in conversation, while I was talking, it's best to engage this original sound off, so that there is noise suppression, ambient noise doesn't come. So now I'll switch on the tanpura, and I'll switch off the noise cancellation, which means I'll switch the original sound on, so you can get the full spectrum of sounds of the music. And then while talking again, I'll switch back to the original sound off option. At around this time, we have a few rags which are played or sung at this time of the day. I will select a rag that's not very well known, but an absolutely gorgeous rag called Dhani, Rag Dhani. Most of you are in the Rajdhani, and I'll be playing Rag Dhani from Bombay. Sorry for the... I'll show myself out. Is my level loud enough now?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes, definitely.
Poonam, can you just give me a rough idea of the duration so I can time the piece accordingly?
About 3 to
Pardon?
5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh, all right, sure. So I'll start with some free improvisation, and then so this is what we call alap. It's absolutely unmetered. There is no rhythmic aspect to it. I'll do a short alap and then a short jod with slight percussive impressions in it. So alap and jod in Rag Dhani.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
That was an absolute treat. So I'm actually kind of dumbfounded. I just want to listen to more of it, but let's have a conversation about this.
Sure.
Why did you choose this rag, and what is the emotional charge that you want to bring to the audience from this rag?
Let me ask you in return, what did you feel?
I felt very peaceful. I felt very absorbed. I wanted more of it. And I wanted, most of all, that it should be released from the confines of a small space, a small audience, a small forum. And it should, I want you to stand in the center of a town at a crossroads where many roads meet and just play it for the whole world.
So Dhani actually is, as I said, it's a rag of late afternoon, early evening, and there are different kinds of rags, different types and categories of rags. Dhani is, the emotion of Dhani is very, very subtle. It's not an in-your-face emotion. It's a very subtle emotion, and it's very unique. It's almost like an island. The feeling of Dhani is like an island. It's not connected to other rags. There are rags which are, interconnected with each other. You change a little bit, and from one rag you go to another. Dhani is not like that. It stands on its own. It has it's like an island. It's not a landmass connected to other surrounding land. So in that sense, I find Dhani very special. that it stands on its own and has a very distinct feel of it, feel unto itself, and it's very subtle at the same time. It's not a very strong flavor, it's a very subtle flavor. So if hypothetically speaking, if I had more time, then I would have actually shown the entire progression of how Dhani secretes and infuses the atmosphere with its own feel. So in that sense, Dhani is a very, very special rag. And because of this very subtle quality, it's not a very commonly performed or practiced rag. There are musicians, vocalists and instrumentalists who know Dhani, who perform Dhani every once in a while, but not so often because of this very subtle quality.
Would you say that this subtlety, I mean, the receiver must be attuned to this subtlety, or else it might be lost on the audience?
I mean, one could look at it that way, but at the same time, as you said, as you earlier mentioned, the difference between Tansen and Kansen. So either has their own role to play, and the Kansen's role is to listen intently. So even for musicians, unless you are a good Kansen, you cannot be a Tansen. So listening is 90% of learning music. If you listen for 9 hours, your 1 hour of practicing music will bear some fruit. So for every 1 hour that you practice music, sit and do your riyaz or whatever, vocally or instrumentally speaking, you have to listen to music for at least 9 hours. So even for practicing musicians, listening is vital. So obviously for a pure Kansen, it's an even greater responsibility to listen. And when you listen intently, when you listen as if you are listening for the first time, you draw from the same piece of music more and more each time. It's like reading a classic novel or watching a classic movie. A classic means you can draw more from it every single time. That's the very definition of the term classic. You can keep drawing from it more and more and more. So every time you read your favorite book or watch your favorite film, it's not like, I watched this, I'm just repeating. No, you find small subtle points from it every single time, and that's the same thing with a piece of music. I hope I have answered your question.
Absolutely. But my question is that, in times when we are so preoccupied, we are so distracted, we are so stressed out, we are so, we don't have the leisure, the inclination, and therefore not the sensibility to listen to music. I fear that this sensibility is not really possible to cultivate. What do you feel is the responsibility of you as the musician and other musicians to cultivate this sensibility given the context that we're living in?
I can only tell people, I can only explain the process, how this works, the process of receiving music. I have been putting music out there incessantly, and through the last 1.5 years of pandemic, even more so than before. Like, there are more videos that I have put out on social media about my playing, like just playing, no talking, just playing. On social media, be it YouTube or Facebook, I have put out so many videos. So all I can do is put my work out there. I cannot force you to sit and listen. That is a matter of your volition. And the more I force you, the more you will be repelled. So it doesn't work that way. The way I see it, my job is to share my music. Now, who receives it and to what extent and for what duration you listen is up to the listener. Then my work is over. If I could, I would force everyone to sit and listen, but I can't. So it just boils down to uh, personal volition. You have to make a decision, sit and listen to music. That's it. The answer, it's a no-brainer.
Uh, Tell me something about the challenges you face as a musician in contemporary Mumbai, let's say.
Uh, Several, actually, several. So the thing is that I mean, there is a certain notion among concert goers and music lovers that an Indian classical musician should look a certain way, talk a certain way, and I don't conform to that mold. But I mean, that doesn't take away from my music. I don't like wearing kurtas. I don't. I do wear kurtas in concerts, but generally when I can avoid, I'd rather not wear a kurta. But that doesn't lessen my music to any extent. But there is this notion which people, that only someone who wears a kurta will be taken seriously as an Indian musician. Just giving one small example. Then there are many such unnecessary Pavlovian connections which actually have no basis.
Oh,
So, and also, Indian classical musician should speak a certain way. I mean, that's again a general notion and should come across as a certain way, should behave in a certain way. I don't feel the need to conform to that notion. So, I speak my mind, and I've had to bear the brunt of that, and it's okay. I, in terms of the challenges faced, there have been a lot of animosity from a lot of so-called people who organize concerts, a lot of indifference, a lot of deliberate uh, indifference and just not taking notes. So I mean, and not just me, every artist goes through this. So I'm not talking about myself in isolation here. Most artists go through this, and but it's all right. One has to take it in one's stride, because then one has to decide what matters more. The music is what matters more. You have to stick to the music. You have to keep doing it. All the whole point is to stay immersed in music. That is your home. You stay in music. You stay, like, you just keep you have to pickle in the music. लिटरली आम के टुकड़े की तरह अचार में पड़े रहो, ऐसे म्यूजिक में पड़े रहो. It actually is as simple as that. I mean, I can't. I I try to boil down to very, very simple analogies, and this actually makes a lot of sense. You have to pickle in music. Then whatever the outcome, if you can do that, then things will come and go, and you'll have all kinds of treatments at either extreme, and you have to just stick to the music. That's it.
I love this metaphor of pickling in music. I am very happy to immerse myself in your music and other music that I like. You find that you are able to bring new audiences to your music besides, the traditional persona of the Riyasi, aristocratic patron of music. Are new audiences coming towards Indian classical music?
Could you be a little more specific? I didn't get the question.
Just like there is a persona of the musician, there is the persona of the music connoisseur, right?
Yes.
You've departed from the persona of the musician, but have you found a commensurate new connoisseur? Sorry.
Yes, yes. A lot of times you do see very unexpected types of listeners react very favorably to Indian rag music. And the beauty of it is that the the more unconditioned their minds, the better they react.
Mhm.
A lot of times what happens is that someone who thinks of themselves as a connoisseur actually has very strong notions about how music should be, so they have it all figured out that this is how it should be, and only if the musician sings or plays this way it's good, otherwise it's not. So they don't have an open mind. But someone who experiences it for the first time, a lot of times I see that they react very favorably, and because they don't have a preconceived notion,
Yeah.
so they react despite themselves, because their defenses are not up, and they show that appreciation and they express it. So even as a listener, the more uh, uninformed you are, the better it is.
Do you find inroads into cultivating connoisseurship through other art forms? I know that you said uh, well, there's obviously the vocal part of it, but what about the visual arts? And most importantly, what about uh, affinities through design, let's say, design as in architectural design?
Could you once again just condense the question, please?
Uh, are you able to establish partnerships with other um, mediums of art and design?
I still am not sure if I got the question correct. So,
Okay.
by partnership, do you mean with other creators, or I didn't get the question? Sorry.
So let's say somebody understands painting.
Right.
Is it possible to bring somebody in to your pickle jar through the route of other art forms?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Because I mean, there are certain things which run through different art forms as common threads. They
Okay.
definitely are. So, a lot of times, based on what the other person is good at, if you draw an analogy in that field, in context with music, 99 times out of 100, they will exactly get the point that you're trying to put across.
Okay. So let's say my training in literature and cinema uh, may help me to find inroads to Indian classical music, even though I have no formal initiation into it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
And,
So
and
there's
just to cite one example, the film Jalshagar by Satyajit Ray. That's where the two exactly come and meet halfway.
say some more.
So the film Jalshagar is about this Indian classical music lover, played by the late actor Chhabi Biswas. He played this central character who is a rasika of Indian classical music. He loves Indian music, and he has the resources to host several artists at his place and have live baithaks. And there is a song featuring Begum Akhtar in the film, where Begum Akhtar actually features herself. So you must watch that film, Jalshagar.
I must.
So that's where, I mean, that's the closest that any director has come to getting the pith and the substance of Indian rag music and the sheer love for Indian classical music.
Wow.
That's the closest that I've seen anyone come in all these decades. Closest. There have been many films on Indian classical music, documentaries and feature films, but Jalshagar is something that can't be touched.
Let's switch gears and talk about
Sure.
The significance of a piece of music and the time of playing. We said that Raghani is very good for late afternoon. Why is that?
Actually the time system in Indian rag music, it started with Bhairav, and Bhairav is a very, very ancient rag. It's really ancient. Bhairav is actually the fountainhead of all the other rags in Indian classical music. So all the other rags come from Bhairav, and Bhairav is meant to be played at dawn, just at the break of dawn when the sky has just begun to turn light.
So it's one of the Adi rags.
Yes, in fact it's the first Adi rag. The other 5 come from Bhairav, and the remaining rags come from these 6 Adi rags. So Bhairav is the original Adi rag. So, and it's not something that I don't think that I am qualified or able to just put it in plain reasoning, conversationally speaking, how a rag relates to the time of the day. I don't think that I can actually conversationally explain that. All I can say, I can point in the direction. All I can say is, if you listen to Bhairav, let's say if you listen to Bhairav just at the break of dawn, that's when you will feel the full saturation and the full effect of that rag. Alternately, if you listen to Bhairav at any other time of the day and just close your eyes and be with the music, not minding the time of the day, then you will feel like it's dawn. So it's not just that a rag always has to be played or sung at its own time and at no other time. Even if it's played or sung at another time of the day, it will create a mood of its own proper time. So that's the beauty of rag music, and it's not just across the 24-hour time cycle. Like there are, as I gave the example of Bhairav, it's an early morning rag. Then there are late morning rags like Todi and Bhairavi. Then there are afternoon rags, there are evening rags, there are early night rags, and there are late night rags. Then there are rags just before dawn, just before Bhairav's time. So there are 8 prahars of 3 hours each in the day, and there are rags for each of the 8 prahars. But the concept of the correlation of melody and time is not just restricted to the 24-hour time cycle, it also covers the seasons. There are seasonal rags. Like the most common example is the malhars, which are sung or played in monsoon. And Miyaki Malhar is one of the better known malhars. And if you sing Miyaki Malhar during the monsoon, you'll feel its full force. And if you play Miyaki Malhar off season and just listen to it with closed eyes, you will feel as if it's monsoon. It'll create the ethos of monsoon. We create the environment of monsoon without any rain outside. So that's the magic of these rags. And the secret lies in how the ancient musicians and composers of rag music, how they capture the essence of the season or the time of the day, and they encoded it in sound and combinations of notes. That is how these rags were, that is how these rags came to be known as either a rag for early morning or late night or monsoon or winter or summer. So that's how these connections are formed. It's not done in a laboratory. It's just done by human beings and going deep inside and figuring out intuitively the connection between the time of the day or what nature outside is telling them, and encoding that into sounds. So if you go along with Bhairav, you will actually feel not just the time of the day, which is early morning, but also the usual feelings that one goes through when one is awake at that time of the day. So that's the magic of rag music.
I'm going to try and transition this conversation to our conversation with Ajay. So let me ask a transitionary question. Uh, what is the relationship between rag, any particular rag, and color?
Well, there are very definite connections, but rather than actually just telling it to you, okay, okay, this particular rag or this particular note depicts this color. I mean, it's just you will either take it at its face value or reject it. But the magic happens when you feel it yourself. That's the thing, and I don't want to ruin it for you. I don't want to ruin that moment of realization for you when you experience it. Like most people have experienced a deep purple when they listen to Yaman. But if I tell someone who hasn't experienced a deep purple while listening to Yaman, may or may not experience it just because they heard it before.
Okay, but you're saying that there is a connection between
There definitely is a connection.
sound
Yes,
and
absolutely.
color.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's round off this conversation here and try to bring in Ajay Chandak,
Certainly.
our next speaker. Thank you so much for your very considered, very deeply thought out, very earnestly expressed views.
My pleasure.
Let me introduce Ajay Chandak. I was talking to him yesterday in preparing for our conversation today, and suffice to say that he trained as an engineer and decided to become an artist. He's still an engineer. He also manages to be an artist. He's not formally trained in art, and it is both a source of immense frustration for him that he's not part of the art establishment, so to speak. And yet, there is a level of comfort and originality that he derives from his outsider status in the art field. In a way, this is also what Jay was saying, that there's a certain persona associated with the classical musician. There's a certain persona associated with the artist, where he trained, where he exhibited, etc., etc. And I want to say that Ajay's claim to fame is his outsider status. So, Ajay, let's begin here. Tell us about what you paint and show us some visuals, and then we can take the conversation forward.
Ajay bhai, you have to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. So thank you, Poonam. And I also want to thank Jay. It was such a peaceful rendition what you played. And definitely there's connection between music and colors. And as we all know from the physics, science, everything emits some wavelength. So is sound and even colors. So and yes, we all know if we are angry, so there are some warm colors, there are some cool colors as well. So when typically we talk of red, there's a passion, there's warmth, there's anger. So it's depicted that way. And similarly, when we play raga, and there are ragas which is played in a different time of a day. So that's what early morning ragas are different, afternoon ragas are different, evening ragas are different, because that's the mood of the environment at the time. So definitely there's connection. Thanks, Jay, for that. Yes, Poonam. So if you want to, essentially, as we discussed, so let me just continue that discussion further. Just to introduce myself a little bit. Yeah, having done my engineering from BITS Pilani and MBA from Bajaj, have been working as management consulting into quality and strategy management. However, art is my passion. So that's the mode of communication and expressions which I've chose, I would say by default. It wasn't any planned thing which happened to me. Essentially, when I was child, I was a little more introverted and I did not have much to talk or express myself. So whenever I went through some emotions or I want to express or share something, I did not do with anybody else, but started pen and pencil, paper and pencil, and started sketching it. And that became so meditative. So whatever my mood swings or anything emotion which I was going through, just by doing the sketch over a period of time, it was so meditative, engrossing, that I started liking it, and that became my form of expressing myself. So my journey of art began there. And thanks grace of Lord that I have built, hasn't got that inherent and Johari window. We say that this was a hidden window for me to know that yes, this talent is given to me. And fortunately, I have been working since then. Every time, whether it's schooling, college, even my job, wherever I went, I did have an opportunity to participate, demonstrate in various competitions. Yeah, some reward recognition certificates, so which kept me motivating to continue doing this. And there's one sensitive area which certainly I would like to touch upon, which Poonam did mention very briefly. Right now, I am, yes, being considered as one of the artists, professional artists. However, without an art degree, there is a group of people within the art fraternity who certainly considers me as an outsider. And more so because I chose my art as a form of abstract. So I love to play with colors, textures, form, and which gives me a lot of freedom to express myself. However, in an art fraternity who are formally trained, they say abstract is like a pinnacle of a pyramid. So you start with the base, then you move ahead, and when you can do abstract only if you have reached that level of self-realization. So essentially, yes, I did face a lot of critics who were against the work which I'm doing or did not approve of it. But then there are many who supported me, saying that yes, this is a one way of expressing yourself without any restrictions. And then there are many master artists in the world, including even Picasso, M.F. Hussain. There are so many of them who have not gone and done any formal schooling in art. So that's the two-way discussion which is happening. Wherever I go and participate, again, the same thing happens. But yeah, in terms of the format which I chose, I started with figurative. I do portraits. Some of the painting which you see, this was during the lockdown because I have so many paintings lying at home. So on the big canvases, I chose to do a small format and try something else. So a little bit of that, what you see are like more of flowers, just to keep has that craving of doing painting, but not large canvas, because last 2 years there wasn't any physical show, offline show or exhibition which happened. However, yes, as I mentioned, I want to try, and which I'm doing, a different format. I'm not particularly stuck to any one particular genre or style of painting, but yes, there's some signature work which comes out in my work as well. If you see, as I was telling you,
can we see some of your paintings so that we know what you're talking about?
I will talk about this one.
Okay.
Just a minute. Sorry. See, I don't know whether you can see this.
Okay.
Okay, this is a work in progress. This is a project which I want to pursue, which I've started. You must have heard that the largest edition, a number of books published in the world is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is published in so many languages, I don't even know the count. And in various languages, number of publication, number of books which gets sold and distributed, right from colleges, universities to regional institutes. And art as a form has expressed Bhagavad Gita in dance, in music, but I did not see Bhagavad Gita being expressed in terms of painting, apart from few paintings which I see, where typically we know that Krishna Arjun on the battlefield, and there are a couple of more. However, I wanted to pass a message of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and each chapter, how do I depict through piece of art, and that also a little abstract, not a direct painting. For example, if you really see this one, I don't know, I'll show this. So if you see this painting, essentially you see there's a battlefield sort of war scene in the background. So in this also abstract format, it's not directly, but there's some element of, like, you can see horse, you can see elephant, the wheel of the Rath on the flags. And then there is a half face I depicted that has a Krishna with his closed eyes, because Krishna did not participate directly in the war, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. However, he was still the director of the entire war. That's why shown that he was hidden, and that's why half face. And he closed his eyes because he did not participate. He did not. He took the vow that he will not even pick up any weapon or participate in the war. So something like that is what I wanted to sort of express myself. Then, if you see this is again just an abstract expressing sort of effervescence. So if you really look at it, there are so the way art is being seen by various people, they connect it differently based on the perception or values or upbringing or whatever life experiences they have. So if I were to show this to somebody, many of them would, this is my experience in my solo show, many of them would come and say that what is this throw of colors, not meaningful. Whereas if they see something figurative like this, where they can see some flowers, they feel, yeah, it's nice. But it's not like that. Every art is different. For example, if you see this one, okay, sorry, it's so if you see this this one, so what I have done is, you can see the various shapes, sort of apple in different shape, different colors. So this is everyone is unique. So in the world, there are so many of us who are there, but we can't compare one with other, because every individual has their unique strengths and qualities. So there are many things like that which I take. So my work has, and basically I want to convey uh, a little bit of, let's say, peace and harmony. Some of my paintings talk about uh, unity and diversity. Some of them talks about reflection, how one is inside and outside, how do you reflect? So most of my work is an abstract format. But yeah, there is something which I want to convey the message as such.
How do you, especially in this time when most museums are closed, most places are not holding exhibitions, it's almost as though you're boxed in. How did you or how do you manage to uh, not exhibit but expose your art to audiences uh, in the past 2 years and going forward?
See, there are some paintings which got sold and people did purchase. I have 3 of my paintings which went to Denmark last year during lockdown. And last month, there's this buyer, the lady who came, visited my house, and she physically saw all the paintings and then chose, she wanted to pick one for her new one, but she picked up 3 of them. So there's some sale which happened. The way, because of lockdown, as we know, all of us have picked up on the online media, whether it's training, whatever business we are doing, a lot of online, it has become online. But my experiences of online exhibition has not been very good, because if I were to go and look through the slide shows of painting, I would rather go to any of the art portal and see so many of my painting. I have choices to look at. So I don't need to wait for that link to see some of the paintings. I can go to Saatchi Art, I can go to Fine Arts of America, I can go to any of the other portals which are there. So many of them are there. However, what worked for me is a personal connect. So I again, same Facebook, all the social media basically, and WhatsApp network. So I depicted as I essentially, whatever I had created, I shared with the group which I have and relative friends. And that was the only media through which I could communicate or share what I'm doing during the lockdown. I did not participate too much in online exhibitions first. Yeah.
Of course, online, the medium is electronic. It's not canvas or paint. It's not paper. It is still digital, right? So you're actually converting one medium into another in order to get the exposure, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever, go on.
So the benefit of online is, gallery definitely has an aura to it. If I were to have a physical exhibition in a gallery, or then that enthusiasm, that personal touch, the warmth, connecting with people, networking, people visiting, physically seeing the canvases, so that experience is definitely very good and different. However, online has its one benefit for sure, that your reach becomes, you expand your reach across the borders. So, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever delved into public art, like on the street, on the sidewalk?
Yeah, there are some community project which keeps going on, at least in Pune, the city where I live in, and we, all depends on the local government. So I think most of the cities must have built that. So there are a lot of public places, the walls specifically, where you want to beautify and communicate the heritage of that particular city or flavor of that city. They engaged artists. So there was a formal engagement by the municipal commissioner of the city, and there's an invitation to artists. They formed a group of artists together, and they gave the areas to paint. For example, Pune, Maharashtra, typically you have a lot of Maratha, Shivaji, Maharaj heritage. So there are so many forts. All of us know Bajirao. So we have Shaniwar Wada in Pune. It's a beautiful place. So yes, I did participate in a few of them. Yes.
And what's the experience of the kind of feedback you get from a non-traditional viewer in the public forum?
See, one aspect, it becomes very easy for people to connect, because when you're working in a group, and many of them you don't know in person, you just go on the venue and then meet many of them together. And since the objective is common, everyone want to participate. That's one. Second is you don't need to buy your own paints. So you can use what you want. So that's a liberty also what we have. I like to throw work also. Many times I think that one of my walls in house, I should just, if you heard of Jackson Pollock.
Yes.
So I very much like his work, inspired. So many of the canvases I do, it's a free flowing. Of course, he's an abstract, a great artist. There is there's a system to the madness as well. Whereas if someone sees, he would just see throw of colors here and there and some droplets. But yes, which color to use, which palette to use, where to throw what is what the art is all about. So
everybody thinks that they can become a Jackson Pollock. It's so easy. Yeah.
And by the way, there was this artist, a black square is a painting, which is just 1 feet by 12 inches by 12 inches. And he had exhibited in a room, and he saw one corner where 2 walls meet, the corner to be empty. Somehow he just put that black square, 1 feet by 1 feet in that. And believe me, it was one of the most expensive painting which got sold. So if you show or see a common man may not relate to it, just 1 feet by 1 feet painting, and then you have a black thing. Let me show some of my smaller work. Just hold on.
If Jay can hear me, Jay, would you please stay on for a little bit? I'm hoping to get.
Of course, I'm here. I just muted myself just so that the bandwidth is saved for you and Ajay. That's the reason why I muted myself, because if it's not required, then I'd rather have my mic off. And I'll just grab the moment to say that he was actually known as Jack the Dripper. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
He was known as Jack the Dripper. Drip paint.
Yeah.
I'm very much here. Don't worry.
Okay.
Sure. So these are some of my small works, which is 1 feet by 1 feet. So I was talking of the same size of wood, which so this I'm making as a series, because when it goes into cluster, there are some expressions because color talks about it, and there the way artists use the palette. So abstract art, one is the way application of colors. Second is what palette you have used. So that's what gets attention or attraction. People relate to it that way. So yes, in general, public, when you're doing something for common audience, essentially what is more appealing to the eyes, whether it's color, texture, form, so people get connected to that work better.
Of course, there are themes that are, rooted in mythology or history, or in your case, the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, if someone has not fully understood the 18 adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, you will have to give a running commentary along with your work for them to understand what you're trying to do, right?
Correct.
On the other hand, there are some things that are so pervasive in the public domain. If you take up a theme like rape or war or oppression, everybody can relate to it because it's a shared civilizational experience for us today that, we don't need an interpretation. So which do you prefer, the the mythic connection to painting, or that which is in the public domain, like it's in the newspaper and you make a painting of it?
That's very good question. When you talk about art, and probably definition would change based on the understanding of the subject. But when you talk of art and the artist fraternity, or anyone who has understanding and knowledge of art, uh, I personally look at it in two perspectives. One is a skill, second is a creativity. So whatever you see and you get inspired and you want to do similar thing, that is more of a skill. So whether I do something copy, I can have someone sitting and do a portrait or a copy a beautiful whatever picture I see. So that is my skill. How skillful I am to regenerate what I see. However, so that though in general it's also called as art, but that's very commercial level in terms of the value of that is very at the base commercial value. Whereas there are artists, you even very famous artists who you just large canvases, which is like 20 feet by so large canvases, just one color, one dab of, let's say, red, blue, and thin line. But then that block of colors, which why he has put line there. For example, Indian artists, if you look at Gaitonde, I like his work very much, though he's inspired. Many people say that it's not very original, but yes, I like Gaitonde's work. One is it gives me a lot of peace because it's based on Zen philosophy. Second, there's a lot of soothing merger of colors and very subtle, we call in fabric self-print. So he uses some symbol which is Zen related. So coming back to your question, yes, one is skill. How do you copy well? Second is creativity. What you feel as an artist. So artists should not get restricted by what people like and will appreciate. No, artist is one who want to express his inner whatever messages, emotions, or whatever on canvases he brings. So that is more creative in a way. So I prefer the second way of doing.
What do you think about the art scene in India, where art has become the favored means of investment of one's expendable resources?
So in terms of a global art market, India on that map of art is very small footprint, almost negligible, I would say. However, the truth is Indian have a lot of good artists, but in pockets. So you have in interiors of India, for example, if I were to just take example of our traditional art, whether we talk about from Orissa, Bihar, Maithili work, Warli work from Maharashtra, Rajasthan, there are so much of our traditional work is there, which is anyway dying because people are moving to a different format of art. However, there are many artists who are very creative, good at their work, but they do not have enough exposure because they don't come with that background of including the education. They can't express themselves. They can't even talk or explain their work. So in terms of bringing them and exposing them to the world, that's what we will need in general at India level. We need to create that platform. So I believe, yes, we do have very creative people. However, India as a country, the art is not given that much as a resources from government or whatever, the funding and the platform, including education. If you really look at who doesn't score well in 10 plus 2, 12, typically we say go for engineering, medical, and who could not score art le lavaiya. So that's what has happened in here. So it's not a mainstream as yet.
Yeah, I just want to give a little anecdote. I made friends with a woman. Her name is Balamati Tekam. She's a tribal artist based in Madhya Pradesh. And, she does her traditional art of figurative natural representations of trees and animals, etc. There's a very definite signature about her art. And it took me months of conversation with her to get her to move out of that medium. So I said to her, what if you were to make a painting about what is happening in your world? I didn't want to say what is happening in terms of corona or whatever, but, go inside of you and give expression to what's happening around you at this moment. And she made a painting for me. It's a canvas of maybe like 4 feet by 3 feet, which is her understanding of corona. And she's got a mythic understanding of an evil force that enters your body and enters society and basically is causing destruction because of I suppose kind of a wages of our sins, that we violated nature, and so nature is now violating us. But it took so much of conversation to just get her to move from step 1 to step 2, because she doesn't have the tools. She only wants to express that which she expresses, but she doesn't want to contemporize or make her art topical. And I'm not sure that I did the right thing by even taking her down that road, because in a way I was bullying her a little bit. But I thought the experiment was worth engaging in. Anyway, let's try and have a conversation between the two of you, Jay and Ajay. Let's not get them confused. Do you have questions or comments that you would not be able to have a conversation between a musician and a painter in a normal setting? So let me be the matchmaker.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Ajay for sharing his work. Thank you, Ajay. Really appreciate and love the work you are doing, and
Absolutely.
best wishes to you with your art.
Ajay, just to let you know, I have my show in Nehru after 2 years of offline as an online. I now have an offline show at Nehru Arts Gallery, Worli, Mumbai. So if you're 19th of October to 25th of October. So if you're in Bombay during that time, certainly I would love you
from the 19th to 25th.
Yeah.
Super. I'll definitely attend.
So we'll connect there also.
Thank you. Yes.
And so have there been any thoughts that have arisen in your listening to each other?
See, one thing which I have seen in large public performances, typically there are speed painters or who performs on the large shows. So I've seen there are background music going on, and there's a musician who would like you have in music also. You have jugalbandi. So whether tabla or flute, so there's jugalbandi which goes on. Similarly, with the artist who would paint on the canvas, and the musician who will sing some rag, and then depending on how the rag moves, the artist would have his strokes done on the canvas, and at the end of it, you have two creations. One is the piece of music, and second is canvas.
Wow, I've never experienced that or even heard of it. That sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yes, there's a term for it. They call it live painting.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it started actually with a concert of my Guruji, Pandit Chaurasia, and MF Hussain painting while he was performing.
Wow.
So that was one of the first instances of this kind of collaborative performing and visual art collaborative concert that I know of. And then there have been several, and I know certain artists in Mumbai, they have also participated in similar events.
Wow. Had I thought of that, I might have even tried to engage the two of you, and you playing the flute and Ajay trying to paint something while you're playing the flute. That would have been revolutionary here.
Maybe we can do that.
In my opinion, it's this kind of a collaborative thing works best after the two artists have spent some time with each other, conversing, trying to know each other's art, and coming and meeting halfway. Otherwise, it just sounds like this guy's doing his thing and that guy's doing his thing.
Of course.
There should be some common catalyst which should affect both and bring them close.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that would be an ideal situation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And there needs to be some understanding. Let's say the artist doesn't understand the music, and he keeps, as you rightly said, one is understanding of that synchronization between the two artists. Second is some level of understanding of both the art form is required by both the artists.
True.
Yes. Yes. So would you say that this partnership between Chaurasia and MF Hussain was successful?
There again, both were doing their own things. But the audience lapped it up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are there any
Because both
questions?
were known names, so.
Yeah. That was the meeting of the stars, so to speak, but not an organic amalgam
It should
of
be,
the two.
yeah, it should be. I mean, it should feel like the musician is not just playing, but also participating with the visual artist, and the visual artist is also listening, and that is in some way permeating in their expression. So it's a two-way cross osmosis kind of a process that should happen. But then
And
the
very
magic is absolutely
ambitious.
different.
Yeah, it is a very ambitious project, but I'm glad that you brought it to our attention. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience?
I already see some connect between Jay with AJAY. There's three letters which are common between both of us.
Yes,
it's an Ajay Jay evening.
It is an Ajay Jay evening, indeed. There is some synchronicity about it, which is why I use the metaphor of matchmaking. I mean, not in the sense of personal matchmaking, but sort of cross-pollination, if possible. Yeah. Anybody has any other questions?
Okay, so I have this little thing to ask Jay, the flutist. You are wonderful, let me tell you, wonderful.
Thank you.
And totally, when you spoke about this, key people do expect that kind of a frame कि भाई कुर्ता पजामा में ही एक artist वाली बात है. Yeah, very true. So this is the preconceived notion that the people generally have.
Yeah.
And I find that, when a musician is a musician, other things just don't matter. And this is what you are. So kudos to that. I really appreciated that thing in you, that you spoke about that. And fantastic. Or the best part is that makes you a true musician, because you're not worried about the outer world as such. The people, what are people thinking, or what are going according to the people? No, it's what you play for yourself. You play for the music, and that is the soul connection.
Absolutely.
And it's all about soul connection in here. This Zina Soul Connects. So really, really great. Really great.
And I like this concept of, pickling in the music. As you pickle in the music.
It is my state of being, Poonam. It's not just a concept. I'm describing my state of being.
I understand. I mean, I'm not an artist. I mean, I'm more of a, let's say, an art critic or an art theorist or a, literary critic. And I understand that there are some ideas. I have to literally marinate in those ideas before I can clarify and make something of it, and then communicate it in a way that it will make an impact. It's not just an exercise of words. It's a immersion process. And then there is a purification that happens in the process of the marination or the pickling. That it is not just, it's a chemical process. Something transformative happens. I can sit with a in front of the screen and toy with the words for 6 hours in a day and maybe just produce one paragraph, and then also the next day that paragraph sounds like rubbish to me and I must start all over again. So yes, it is a very deliberative process, and it is a meditative process, but it is also a process of purifying the art and purifying oneself in the process of engaging with that art. And
Absolutely.
the same holds true for
Absolutely. Now, this
painting.
what you just said. Unless art brings you face to face with yourself, its
Yes,
entire purpose is not being served yet. I mean,
absolutely.
one can go on this trip of virtuosity and showing I can do this, I can do
Ah,
that, but unless you are face to face with yourself,
correct.
Yes,
Very
yeah,
true.
you are absolutely right. Yes.
yes.
I'm so sorry. I wanted to ask one question
Yes, yes,
from Ajay. Now
yes.
I see Jay and Ajay ki evening है ना, तो एक question आपका, एक question Ajay का भी. So
Sure.
Ajay the artist. So I have seen your paintings. They're beautiful, and you paint the acrylic and you paint oils also, isn't it? I think I've seen more of the acrylic part. These which you had shown are acrylic on the canvas, or do you do oils also? And
I
if you're doing these two, then how difficult, the difficulty level, I would like to know.
see various medium in terms of art. Here, I used to do oil, but I prefer acrylic nowadays. For oil, definitely is one of the rich medium to work in. And if you typically see in any museum, you will see most of it is oil
Correct.
because the longevity of the paintings. So whereas acrylic is more of a plastic paints. So the advantage of acrylic is it dries faster, whereas oil takes time. For example, it's all mess, but let me show you. This was my yesterday. I'm still preparing for my.
Oh, wow.
This is what I'm still doing. If I were to do it,
Okay.
so I have my exhibition in a week's time.
Oh, so
If
you're
I were to,
preparing for that.
yeah, if I were to do it in oil, I won't be able to do
Huh.
it. But acrylic is yesterday night, late in the night, I was sitting, and that's why all the mess you can see in here. Yes, so most of work I do right now is acrylic. That's one. Uh, Advantages, yes, fast drying. Second is I can do a layer one over another one.
Correct. Correct.
Whereas oil is definitely a beautiful medium. You have a lot of smooth mixes which you can do in oil, which becomes difficult in acrylic. So yes, nowadays I do mostly that. Then I also do pastels and something mixed media, charcoal pastels and
Okay. Okay, so art. Actually speaking, you're so right. For both of you, Jay and Ajay, I mean, art is a form of expression. Be it music, be it your painting brush and the easel and everything. So it's like amazing, amazing, really amazing. During these lockdown times, I also painted a little bit, but essay.
no, no,
So
your work is also good. I've seen that.
oh
It's
yeah, I do. I've done a little bit of poster colors and watercolors, but it is nice. And then of course I don't have time now because of बच्चों के साथ. But otherwise, true.
even your vases are good. I've seen your vase painting, so I like that. Yeah.
I painted bottles. Oh yeah, especially the carbo bottles. We from the Goa, I said I need to do something, so I painted 3 bottles. So it's like that. But lovely meeting you people here on this platform. Seriously.
It's been such an
Likewise.
enriching afternoon.
Actually.
I don't have time to sum this up, but really it doesn't need summing up. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been soul enriching, truly soul enriching conversation. The kinds of things
Absolutely.
and questions that we don't get to ask enough of. Even when we listen to music, uh, we don't really understand how it's made and how it's processed and what it does to the artist and what it does to the audience. What is its relationship to time and color and seasons and etc. So um, uh, this has been a very impromptu kind of conversation, but nevertheless very, very enriching. I hope you've had a good conversation with each other and with
Great.
yourselves.
I had a great time. Thank you, Poonam. Thank you,
Yeah.
Rajiv Bhai. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Shivani. Thank you, everyone.
It's
Mr.
Thank you
Vinay
for
Pandey
all
as
the
well.
people working
And
behind
I'd
the
just like to
scenes.
close with one funny anecdote which happened to me just before a concert. I was invited for a corporate concert in Goa.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
Goa, wow.
I took my video camera and everything, and I first went and set my flute on the stage, and then came and set up the video camera on the tripod, and then went on stage and sat and started playing. And I saw some very uncomfortable expressions on people's faces. So, nevertheless, I continued playing. I played for about 1.5 hours, and then we had a kind of a buffet dinner. And I spoke to those people whose expressions I saw, and I asked them, was there any wrong that, I mean, so they said, no, 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 we were actually expecting when you were setting up the camera, we thought you were the artist's assistant, and the artist will come and. But when we saw you only sitting and play, so we thought, who's this? Why is the assistant sitting? So, I mean, another thing about stereotype notions, and so, yeah.
So
Anyway,
you
I had
have
a great
to
time.
play.
Thank you for having me, Poonam. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Take care.
It's been,
Thank you,
as I
everyone.
said, a
Thank you, Raj.
soul-enriching event,
Thank you.
and we hope to have more of this in the weeks and months to come.
Certainly. Definitely.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care.
Goodbye,
Good
bye-bye.
night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
सदस्य जीनत है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा। हम सदस्य जीनत है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा। कष्ट गरीबी दुख हरने का हम संकल्प उठाएं, धरती को कुटुंब करने के लिए प्रयास बढ़ाएं। कष्ट गरीबी दुख हरने का हम संकल्प उठाएं, धरती को कुटुंब करने के लिए प्रयास बढ़ाएं। हम सदस्य जीना के है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा। सबको रोजी रोटी हो और सबको हो खुशहाली, हो निर्बाध विचार भावना सदा सीखने वाली। सबको रोजी रोटी हो और सबको हो खुशहाली, हो निर्बाध विचार भावना सदा सीखने वाली। हम सदस्य जीनक है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा। दया क्षमा नैतिकता हो और हो सम्मान सभी का, सबको यूं अपना माने के दिल ना दुखे किसी का। दया क्षमा नैतिकता हो और हो सम्मान सभी का, सबको यूं अपना माने के दिल ना दुखे किसी का। हम सदस्य जीनक है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है अपना नारा। हम सदस्य जीनक है जीना परिवार हमारा, चारों ओर खुशी फैलाने का है